So we're recording. It's me and Holly. Holly and I have been working together. It's been more than a year, but it's this last year that's been really impactful for you. And for me too. It's been amazing to watch and to be part of the transformation of you, but it's you that's doing the work. It's you that showed up ready, and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Well, for you.
Mostly ready. Let's put it that way. Because there were some little, which is what we're going to talk about. So we're here because of a private message we were just having, and we're like, we should get this on tape. And so you could tell more of this part.
So Andrea was mentioning how she observes and how I also perceive it, that there is a disconnect between those in the more woo-woo, spiritual, kind of touchy-feely segment, which is actually a lot of my audience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a disconnect between those people with the idea of being an online marketer. And so, and my own story is that I came into Andrea and she was suggesting that I purchase this particular package that allowed me to get access to her while also getting access to all these other amazing, real practical teachings on how to. And I came in and it was like, whoop, wait, I love you, Andrea, and I want you, but I can't stand the way this guy is presenting this package. So I don't ever see myself being associated with this type of talk. And so anyway, Andrea keeps getting presented with people like me, I think.
Yeah, totally. So I run into this a lot. I'm not super that flavor, but I'm not that flavor. I'm sort of Switzerland in this case.
Yes, you are. Yes.
I sort of ride the fence between the two lands. And and part of this, we both have this open center in our human design graph, which you may or may not be familiar with, whoever's watching, but that allows us to kind of chameleon to the people that we're with. So I'm not attached to any of this one way or the other. I'm just how can we serve? I see this phenomenon. How might we serve this? And maybe, should we, shouldn't we don't know yet. But how might we sort of crack this nut? Because it's a big nut all over the place that I see it, that there's people who are making this delineation between being able to have a financial abundance and good life besides that, whatever that good life looks like to them. So there's this conflict that just doesn't even remotely have to be there. But I don't know. I haven't up until now. And in fact, you're kind of like my linchpin for this. I have never been able to kind of I have lots of people who buy this package. I've had this type of package over time. And the reason that I like it is because it takes me out of the loop for doing the grindy work. All of the, all of the teaching that's the technical stuff, or it gives people an opportunity to have access to more than just me. But then I get to be the cherry on top because of the way the pricing is structured. So I can actually afford to be present for the transformation.
Yeah. Which, let's pause right there.
Okay.
Because that's it. And that's part of what I don't think people see is you being able to afford to be present for people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if you're just, yeah, well, tell me more about that. How is that possible in a general sense?
Well, in a general sense, what I see happening is people will tend, and this isn't just this crowd of people, this is people selling things in general as a dog. He needs to get down.
Where is he at? Like
he's on my table.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But he's like creeping across the desk. I was like, get down. So what happens is, I think that there's like a chasm really of financial awareness and education in the United States in particular, whether it's across the, it is, I see a lot of, I've actually run into a lot of people in Europe also who have like actually even more bigger struggles around this. Yeah. It's really interesting to, it's just different, it's a different system that they have grown up under. But what I see is that, this was true for me too, honestly, I didn't have a clue how leverage worked. I didn't have a clue. I was, originally straight out of, I worked a little bit in retail, but then pretty much starting in my early 20s, I started making handcrafts and selling them at markets, and then craft shows, and then juried craft shows and whatever. But the point is that it was all me all the time. If I wasn't making the stuff and I wasn't going out selling the stuff, there was no income, period. And so that meant I couldn't be sick, and scaling was limited, and there was no exit plan ever, except to just not do it anymore, right? I considered employees and so forth, but it was not, I'm not built like that. I'm just built to be me, doing my little thing in the corner of the world with one-on-one to people like you, whatever. And what allowed me to get a clue about this was coming online, beginning to sell information products mostly. And in this case, what you purchased was an event, mastermind, repeat possibility of masterminds and community over the course of years. And what it does, so the price point is high enough that $1,000 commissions plus is what I always look for. And it's not that it doesn't matter what the thing is, but it just matters that it's a thing that we both like. It gives people access to more than just me, and they have, it's not always, go to Andrea for the answer. It's not even that I have to have all the answers, which is really important. And it really just opens the gates wide. If my part of the profit of this sale, which comes with the value of me in this, which is what you experienced, which you can talk more about because I don't actually know because I'm on this side of the fence with that. But I've seen it happen enough that I know it's a thing. I don't have any, I'm not, I don't lack confidence in that frame, in that way, where when I run into the right people, when I connect with the right people, I have lots to just shift the heck out of their world, right? And which is something that you do too. It's just a matter of really meeting, getting clear on the right audience for you. Like, who is it you actually want to be spending time with? Who is it that you're actually impacting? That sort of thing. Not who will buy. So it's that price point that opened that up for me, and the fact that other people are taking on most of the workload, to be honest. I just have to show up as myself when the person, I don't even have to do that. I can still sell it and not show up as myself because the purchase is at the company level, and it's not like I'm technically free and clear of responsibility once the sale is made. So I could then die, which I don't want to do. but I could then die, and still the money that my family receives because of that relationship with the company would be enforced. It wouldn't change. So there's like, I don't know how to explain it except to show people it in person. One of the things that I did, so I showed you a couple of examples of recent, well, one example in particular of a recent, like where I'm hitting this, that guy's not for me thing. And I'm like, yeah, but just go on a little bit further is what I'm like encouraging. And part of it is like people really need to be to the point of, I don't know what this is about, but Andrea says to go ahead and do it, so I'm going to do it. Like there is a component of that makes everything work better in the end. Otherwise it's kind of an uphill, like you have to keep selling. You have to sell them on the click to put their email in, then you have to sell them on the next piece, and then you have to sell them on going to watch the thing. And it's like a funny fine line, but it doesn't even have like an ego piece to it for me. I'm like, that's the current doorway. I don't got any other doorway. I'm not opposed to making some other doorways, which is what we were talking about, what I was talking about with this other gal this morning. I don't even think she heard me, but I was talking about out loud and I heard me. So that was all that mattered at the moment. But so the thing is that sometimes the doorway, what was it that I said? The portal may not be correct, but the rabbit hole might be.
Yes.
Yeah. So like I'm pointing people through this rabbit hole and getting some pushback on this. That's not my language, basically. They ain't talking my language thing. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm telling you that what's on the other side is useful and appropriate. And yeah. And
Absolutely.
you're honestly the first person who was on this awareness track and also had this, and still though, it took some, you were like, really? I don't get it. But yeah, but I got this problem. I'm like, it's not a problem.
Right.
A couple of times, before you like you actually went in and then forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then came back around, and I forget, we might need to go back and see what was the occasion that caused you to come back around. But I was still present in your otherwise online space, and I didn't actually have any, what's the right word? There was no concern for me whether or when you tuned in. I just knew that it was a good resource, and when people are ready to have resources from me recommended, then it clicks.
Yeah, I think what happened for me, so I went and I bought a very tiny piece of this package. I got involved in the company at a very low risk level. Mm-hmm. And got there and took a actually totally different path. So I was like, well, I'm going to go play in the spiritual realm for right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be busy and learning about that. And maybe I'll come back to this later, but the idea of getting Andrea is really intriguing, and I know and I sense that she has answers and things for me to need.
Right.
So what brought me back was actually a shift in my belief that I could have more of a say in how people come to the company than I had previously allowed myself to believe. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I didn't have to play small in this little tiny box. I remember Andrea saying, what if there was no box?
I don't remember.
You could play entirely outside this box. And I was like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if this was specifically, like there might have been, I think there's been multiple boxes, to be honest, but but the one that I remember very early on was that you went, and you were all about, this is such a masculine space. This is
Totally.
such a masculine space. I'm like, yes, so? That's because you haven't showed up yet, girl. And you're like, what? And it didn't click at first. And then I think it was when we finally went to the event that you're like, oh, there is room on the stage for me if I just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, because I know who's in this company, I think is part of why I was clear about this. But I was like, that's just because that's who's coming to the table. That's what's here because that's what's here.
Yeah.
It's not because that's what, there couldn't be other things here. There's plenty of room for whatever the doorway is that is flavored according to the audience or whatever. I just personally haven't, and maybe this is the beginning of that, been able to, or maybe not cared whether I sugarcoated it for people. Is kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I really do best personally when people just finally say, well, I don't understand, but whatever. I'm just going to buy this thing because you told me to, and I'm on board with your guidance. So that for me is like maybe something I need to get over. Like I could like allow people to be on board somewhat not attached to me. It would be okay too. But that's, that's yet another portal. There's like these portals. The portals can look however we need them to be speaking to people so that they understand and can be nodding, yes, I want this. That's really what we're talking about. So I've been sending people to the sort of the main portal because I do a lot of pre conversation. And what ideally, in order for myself to scale next, is to have that recorded so that the pre-conversation feels like they know, like, and trust me without me being there, which has really been my own personal like hurdle to yeah. But honestly, because you have been able to like clarify and hone in on who you actually want to be talking to, like you started like way different thinking when you're thinking about, and then now I feel like you're really dialing it in to where you're speaking like from your absolute heart and people are responding.
Yeah.
The people that you want to be talking to are responding. Yeah. So
can you share a little bit about maybe one or two beliefs that you think or perceive that people in the spiritual community have about money, particularly?
Well, before we get to the money part, I think, well, no, not even before. Part of it is that people who have money are not me. I mean, that's kind of like the thing in a nutshell. People who have money are people who are not like me. On lots of fronts. It's like people who are, just so many friends. But basically, that's the gist of it. People who have money are people who are not like me, and people who are not like people who are like me. So not like my tribe either. So there's this cluster of people. A lot of this is sort of a tribal flavored thing too. People getting together, people doing circles, people doing, gatherings, people doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's one, is that, they're surrounded by lots and lots of people who are of the same perception. And there's this kind of a monkey trap in some ways. Yeah. But also there's this idea that capitalism or whatever has to be win-lose. Like somebody's got to lose.
Yeah.
And that is so far from the truth at this point in time that actually you should only ever be selling or promoting or whatever something or an offer, creating offers that are like win over deliver on value for the person, to where they no brainer say, yeah. And there's, I think that the digital world has opened up that as a possibility because value doesn't have to be expensive for the provider, but it can be still hugely valuable to the receiver. And so that's where I think that most of the world really doesn't know how to create offers. And, so money runs out. Well, money runs out for me sometimes, even still. What do? I make a new offer. And you know what? Then I can sell it. And there's a kind of a component in there that is somewhat invisible, which is about being of service and value to people prior to that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's why I can do that. And that's why you can do that. Really, you haven't really done much of it yet, but you will totally have the option to, I need $10,000. Oh, I just make an offer and boom, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the capitalism win-lose scenario. And this is why I love the digital world. I agree with you, Andrea. There are no glass ceilings here. None. There's none. And as a woman,
doesn't matter also. None of this matters. None of the things that would have mattered in real life, even still can matter in real life, do not matter online at all.
Right.
People can speak different languages or badly speak English. A lot of the times we're like, no, your accent is amazing. You should do more. And we're like, no, really, it's true. Americans love accents.
It's so true. I know.
Yeah. Or you can be young, you can be old, you can be female, you can have any color of the skin you care to have or were born with. You can have different color hair. You can be, different body sizes. You can be anything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because it's really about finding the right cluster of people that are your people that you can deeply serve.
Yeah. And that's sort of what, I don't know. I feel like that, not to get super economical, but that's a part of capitalism that maybe I feel like we do better. The serving part without necessarily expecting something in return.
Well, I think what happens is, again, it's the cost of doing business has been extremely reduced.
Yeah.
And so the style of doing business has been able to change.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're no longer necessarily producing a widget.
Right. Now, there are people who do do e-commerce and are, effectively having lives that way. I believe they're a little more labor intensive, to be honest, and a lot of bookkeeping and such, which is just not my groove at all. So, but so that is a possibility, but there isn't as much of a margin in it. Yes, digital marketing has like the biggest margin of anything because you can create something from nothing. It costs practically nothing to do that.
Yeah.
It costs practically nothing to store it online. And then really it's a matter of the marketing pieces that go with it, that if you don't know how to do that stuff yourself, or it's not your groove or whatever, then you partner with other people in some fashion. Usually you pay them. A lot of people just pay people to do their copywriting and whatever. And you ideally keep, well, this isn't true for everything, but it is true for a lot of this digital marketing stuff. And especially if people are going to be buying directly, they're buying because they're the connection, the familiar connection, that piece of it. you would want to be doing the creative pieces that are representing yourself. So you speaking on camera, your pictures of your, workspace or family, or, on stage or whatever it is. That part's important to have personalized, but the rest can be outsourced ultimately. A lot of people do some of it themselves or some of it other people. It's just like so many combinations. But the point is that for a very low cost production of an offer thing, I mean, I go super low production. I like jot it down on a Google Doc and I say, hey, who wants this thing? In some cases, and fill the offer the way that I've, envisioned. So it's just that the tools and the possibility with this online medium has just really made so much more possible. Like there's just so much more margin possible.
Yeah. So a person who is spiritual.
Yes.
A person who maybe does not speak perfect English. Can create offers just like, I don't know, you or I can, because that offer comes from that particular.
It comes from knowing themselves, yes.
Yeah.
But also knowing who it is that they're seeking to serve. Not serving them up something they think they want, but actually serving them up something they actually want.
Yeah.
And not even need. So we're talking want, not need. So a lot of people are like, oh, they need my thing. They need this. Everyone will need this, la, la, la. Or, there will be so many people who need this. If you are using the word need and you're thinking around anything that you're creating, you need to stop, because it doesn't matter what you think they need. And it even doesn't matter what they actually need. It only matters what they want, because that's what people will pay for.
Yeah.
So I had somebody early on say, think about what is the result of the result that you're offering. So, people, and it's a little bit hard to wrap your mind around. Well, it's a little bit hard for me to wrap my mind around. But the point is that, so people they say they want, even in the spiritual realm of folks, like the folks that I'm sort of swirling around in, they're still like trying to figure out the income recipe that's going to work for them, because they have to live, right? And some people are really suffering, honestly, and for no reason. Personally, I think there's for no reason, but everybody's got their own, I want to say, conditioning to work through.
Yeah.
And also stories and history and childhood, whatever, and people have traumas and all that stuff. All of that aside, all of that is a thing. Lots of people have it. People still survive and thrive. But what they, I forget where I was going. Yeah, I totally forgot where I was going. Sorry. We'll have to loop back around. Sorry.
You said early on you connected with someone.
Oh, yeah. So this result of a result. So they're looking for something. Let's say it's income, because they have to pay their bills, which is just a universal thing. People have bills or they're homeless. Those are sort of the two choices, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't want to be homeless in order to have, a life that they enjoy with peace and ease in it, abundant peace and ease, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not that there's any peace and ease in homelessness. Let me not even go there. But you don't have the overhead that you would have if you're living somewhere.
Yeah.
And wanting to do things and have experiences with your family and so forth. So what they're looking for is the income, but so that's the result. But the result of the result is, if that is in place, if that, whatever, if you want to just take it down to a number, whatever your number a month would make comfortable, or whatever the target thing is. Some people just have this thing about not having more than their share, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't have to, they can have that, but they can still have it. They don't have to be the others, on the negative side of that, still,
Yeah.
you know, trying to figure it out. Whatever each person's interest is in that realm, the result of that is what they actually want. So what's that going to allow for? That's the question.
Yeah.
I have another mentor who used to say, he passed away last year. He used to say, who is suffering? Who is not being served because you're not showing up? Because you're not wealthy, really, was his version. Who would, I forget how he phrased it exactly. Who would benefit from you being wealthy is the flavor of it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who have this spiritual connection and, you know, how much more good could be done in the world if wealth was part of that situation.
Absolutely. So much so.
And so there's nothing technically wrong with having the wealth. It's just a matter of figuring out where the resistance points are, and which is what we've been working through, you know, freaking layer by layer. It's not like you can say, oh, look, there's that person and they're, you know, I can see what's going on. No, it's like this stuff bubbles up, and then you'll go, oh, wait, you know, and it's fun to watch you like have these wheels turn, and you'll pop in, like I won't hear from you for a while, and then you'll pop in with this, oh my God, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing that you're seeing this now. So
yeah. Well, and just in terms of our finances in the spiritual community and thoughts around that, you know, I know that I had a fear. I don't want to be like them, like the corporate CEOs that are taking advantage of, you know, these workers and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and that is the story in the U.S. spiritual community anyway, right? And so, you know, there's this idea that there's power and we can't have any of that because we would never do those practices to get that wealth. But in this realm, that's not how it is at all whatsoever. In fact, you get to show up doing the thing that you love the most, or talking about the thing that you love the most, the exciting things in your life. And that is what people find value in, and that is what they pay you for, you know?
Yep.
So, anyway, it's very opposite, I feel like, of the current who's in power right now climate.
Well, sure. I see. And again, I'm Switzerland when it comes to politics.
Sure.
Very much so. I mean, I live, anyway, we're not going there. But the point is that people have a preconceived notion about who they might have to become in order to have this be possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not to say that there doesn't have to be a shit ton of growth.
Yes. This has been the worst, can I say it?
Yeah.
Worst year, and also the best year.
Yeah.
So, it's not, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's not a pretty thing. It's not a pretty phase, but it sure is at the end of it. When you're getting messages from people.
Oh,
like,
you want to read that one?
I don't know that I can.
Go ahead and read it, and if she says no, I don't think she will, though, because she sounds like she wants you to spread around. But actually go ahead and read it, and then we can chop it off if we need to.
Okay.
Do you want to? You don't have to.
Go over there and get it. And I've actually had some more conversations with her, which is funny because the thing I said to her was, how do I not, in hearing this message, I want to make sure that I don't become them.
Them. There's still a them and us thing. You're so funny.
Okay. So she said to me, which is like,
Okay,
and
wait. There's another piece of this. So we have to explain that you and I met online.
yes,
Through not a money interest thing, through the human design part of it.
Yeah.
Just happened to quickly realize that we had common interests in this other entrepreneurial end of things.
Yeah.
And had never met in person until way after you had spent quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And worth.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope that's the case. But that, and this is just one of people that you're meeting online that happens to have popped into your inbox in conjunction with these conversations that we're having. So we're just using this as an example. But this is somebody that you met online using an automated tool on Facebook that at first you were like, I don't think this is going to work. But again, it was for me just really awesome that you were like, I don't know, but Andrea said so, was kind of how you.
Oh yeah.
And what you ended up doing was being sort of pressed into really evaluating who are your people. Because initially you were targeting the wrong, you were, typing in the wrong parameters basically to this thing, and it was delivering you the wrong people.
Yeah.
And so it really comes down to knowing and digging deep and being honest with who it is you want to be talking to, not who you think it is who will have the money to be able to afford it even.
Yeah.
So anyway, so go ahead and read because it's amazing. This is just, so you did a live.
Yeah. And I've never met this person in person.
Right.
And she commented on my video, and I said, well, tell me, what popped about it, what made you like it or whatever. And she said, well, I like how you spoke about this and that. And I, for one, would love to hear more about your awakening from the mundane to the spiritually magical, as that's how I see you. And then she asked permission if she could share some more things with me. And I said, of course, sure. So she said, your emergence on the scene at this point in time is because the area needs legitimate, pure-hearted leadership from women who aren't out to make a quick dollar. And she later clarified that to mean what it was I know she meant, which is, you really care about people. You are emerging as that for many. You will have people coming out of the woodwork like roaches soon enough for guidance. You'll need to remember that you are guiding the tired and the weak, the forlorn, and those who are betting their last bets on this bit of hope. You are, I have goosebumps even now. You are a light of hope. Your pure and genuine flash and fire, that inner passion for what can be and what will be, will draw crowds to you. You are the Venus in that in the shill to many. Sorry, the Madonna with the child being hope of a future that you are going to teach them to build for themselves. I see you, I see your spirit, I see your quest, and it is everything that the masses have been looking for. Recharge your batteries and transmute the energies you clear and exchange with those women into something bright and beautiful, like strings of pearls you pull from the underworld.
Woo! La!
Yeah.
Okay, so that's amazing. And what is amazing to me, so this is like dialing it back around to, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And you will have many of this experience. This is your new normal. I'm telling you right now, this is your new normal.
Okay, take it out of faith.
Yeah. What I want to really encourage people to understand is the path that brought you to that message.
Yeah.
The path that brought you to that message was being open to not knowing everything about the things you thought you knew.
Yes. So true.
Yeah. And then taking action, of course, within the different, it's not like there's any one track. So people would like to sometimes come in and say, well, just tell me what to do so that I can get what I want, kind of thing. Yeah. It is still a bespoke experience to figure out what your track is, not just who is it that you're talking to, but what's the journey that you're going to be taking to allow them to see who you are, so they can have that kind of I see you experience and be able to tell you about it and other people. Yeah. So a year ago or better, you started, I said to you, have you made any videos yet? And you had maybe done something, a live or two or something. And you're like, but not really, something, yes, but not really. I'm like, well, that has to be a piece of this. And I don't think you really hesitated. You didn't necessarily know how it was going to turn out. But again, it was on taking this sort of leap of, let's see what happens with me. And I don't have time for that. This is a son on the side, a child. And so you went ahead and have been doing daily videos, really, pretty much for the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's huge. You don't even understand yet how huge and how long those are going to serve you.
That's good.
I'm serious. That hasn't been, like, I've done some, like, and here's what's interesting is, even though it wasn't exactly how I did things, I could see that it was what you needed to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I had to be doing it so that you could do it. It wasn't that at all. It's really a personalized path thing. And there's so many ways to have this, how will people find me thing come true.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the sum of all this? The sum of all this?
I don't know. The sum of all this is that I think it's cool to see, I just think it's really cool to see the two. I just see that there's this option that a lot of people don't, like, all kinds of people don't know about, but this realm of people in particular don't know about, and I would love to see them, like, kill it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there literally are all kinds of, like, pockets of types of people who we could be saying, okay, this is who I'm going to show up for. And, be abundant and have, financial whatever. It's just, it comes down to, so here's a different somebody I followed at one point said to me, who would you want to spend a month on a cruise with? And, most of the family members in our lives don't qualify.
Yeah.
So you don't go to family. Sometimes your friends don't even qualify. You don't go to friends. You look for those people who you would be, so this has been it's probably almost 2 years of connection. A year of, since you're like, lean in. But, and if I didn't enjoy you, how miserable would that be?
Right.
No, I only want to do this with people who I really, really enjoy and who I really, really want to be around, you know? And if I can have, my personal, so dialing it back a little bit again into the human design realm, my personal path is about having an impact on people's minds in unexpected ways. And so you always bring me these unexpected ways, and it's just so yummy. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's Holly up to now? It's always like, what's rolling through her mind that I can, like, add just a tweak to, and she can just, mull it over and go, like, pop, 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 pop around. So, yeah.
It's just a privilege. To be able to work with you and to have met you, and
same girl.
Thank
Same.
you.
Yeah.
And to share the same community with you, in this one aspect. We don't,
We don't intersect mostly, actually,
yeah.
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of just like so Holly has done now her first event and now is planning a second, is filling up a second, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And I went to the first one and we were in the car and she said something about, do you think of angels or something? Or I don't know what you said, but I was like, that is nothing that ever crosses my mind ever. And you're just like, like if it had been, huh?
It was just like so weird. Like, oh my God.
I know.
Really?
I felt like suddenly I was the stranger in her car and she's going to push me out the door almost. But imagine if we had gone there first, if that had been a criteria for you, we wouldn't know each other at all.
Right.
I literally, not because I have any feeling one way or the other, but I literally don't have any thoughts of angels pass through my head ever.
Yeah.
And you were just like, how is that possible?
I'm still like, God.
Yeah, so it's not like you have to match on all the people that you end up serving. It's just about whatever the topic is that you're talking about is the topic, that's the thing. But you don't have to always be in agreement. You don't always have to have the same anything. Like diversity can be actually pretty interesting,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Andrea, and for fleshing out and giving some, concrete thoughts about that, the money stories and.
Yeah, and I certainly have not even explored it all myself. It's just these things that I see. Honestly, it's about people I see struggling who just don't need to be struggling.
Yeah.
But get in their own way.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, I'll see. I'm trying to decide whether to stop the recording or what we're going to do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're good. I really appreciate you dragging me onto this.
Yeah, thank you. It needed to be said. And I feel like it does need to continue to be said. Not just you, but
it's an ongoing conversation in general, for sure. Yeah, I'm just I'm just one me.
Well, but I mean, I think that you can be you in the spiritual community saying what you're saying, even though you're not spiritual.
Maybe.
And maybe you're the link to, maybe you're my link to legendary marketing, and I can be your link to the spiritual community or something. I don't know. Whatever. It just feels like I have a little thing that says there's more here that we need to talk about.
Definitely.
People are talking about this.
Definitely.
So thank you for being willing.
Absolutely.
Are you going to put?
I'm just going to stop the recording.
Okay.